The only time I'll get to have co-billing with Paul Newman is when I talk about the quote, what we have here is a failure to communicate. Communication is such a challenge in our society, and I know that's been more than 15 seconds, but we have so many methods of communicating and so many ways to misuse them. It's such a great challenge for all of us, as opposed to the old days when we used to post a letter and not have to worry about a response for 4 or 5 days in the mail, right? Today we have all sorts of methods of communication, including email, the bane of all of our existence. The challenge that we all deal with, the way to create so many problems. I know that I am far from inbox zero, and I think all of those people that brag that they are mostly just lying. This is the most words I'll have on any of my slides, but Clay Shirky's a pretty smart guy and talks about these issues, and he says it's not information overload, it's filter failure. And I would encourage you, if you don't have filters set up in your email, to pull out listserv messages and other things. The cell phones have changed our world. The Supreme Court noticed us of that in search and seizure yesterday. And how many times are you having a nice conversation with somebody? The person is having a lovely conversation with you. You're really connecting one-on-one with a person, and then what happens? Somebody sends you the message, you're important to me, but this buzzing device in my pocket is more important. And suddenly you're stymied in your communication attempts, right? It's one of the great challenges we deal with today. And I would ask you, was this a paying client? Was this a potential client? Isn't everyone a potential client or a resource of clients? Don't treat people that way. It's a real challenge, and it's hard, and we're all guilty from time to time. And if it's a call from a hospital, you're probably going to take it. But what would your grandma do? Well, WWGD. She probably wouldn't take the call, but if she did, she would be very polite, and she would be very brief. This is like Oklahoma football territory, and I would say if you take one of those calls while you're talking to somebody, you should have that clock going off in your head like they say quarterbacks do. 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, trying to get off by 1,010 before you really offend the person that you're dealing with. Remember, when you're talking on your phone, you don't have the get smart cone of silence. You can't imagine how many lawyers have disclosed confidential information while they're blathering away on the phone, and everybody else on the subway is hearing stock market tips or client confidentiality exposed. And about the problem with lawyers not returning their phone calls, we get a bad rap for that because everybody else returns phone calls with very simple messages. Yes, I can go to lunch. No, I can't. We have to give huge diatribes sometime or huge answers to tough questions. How do we deal with that? You set your client expectations. You tell them in the initial meetings. Sometimes it's hard for you to get back to your phone as soon as possible. You discuss the challenges. You set an office policy, and make sure if you're unexpectedly not able to return those phone calls, you tell your staff to return the call for you. Maybe we discuss communications with our new clients and how we work and say, listen, you can follow me on Twitter, but don't send me messages, only use email or whatever it is. Some lawyers like text, some lawyers hate it. But deal with communication and give your client great update and status reports. Build a law office communication system in the same way I discussed this morning, building other processes in the office. Make sure that your clients are not left wanting things. Use status reports and preemptory communications. Shove information at them so you don't have as many phone calls to return. The best thing you can do to distinguish yourself is handwritten thank you notes. Nobody gets those anymore. And when you get one, it's almost like a historical artifact. Wow, somebody wrote something by hand. It really makes an impression. Who would I send a thank you note to? People who bring me loads of money. People who refer me cases. A great office policy. If you refer me a client and I take it, you deserve a handwritten thank you note. That's a really good idea for all of us as a business principle and as a politeness principle. There's 2 stages to communication. Learn how to be a better listener. Don't take calls during the initial client interview. Watch about distractions like that vent in the air conditioner or the noisy fan that distracts people, or just a lot of things in your office. Read about active listening and watch your mouth. Some of us are old fogies and a little bit old-fashioned. Don't be posting all those vulgarities to Facebook because that minister with that great personal injury case may not come and hire you after seeing that on your social media account. Be cautious in your information. And finally, as long as I'm preaching to you, avoid deadly communication failures. Texting while driving is taking a huge damage and a huge toll on our society. So I want you all to be careful, purposeful about your communication skills. I want you to plan for great communication, and I want you to execute great communication. Thanks a whole lot for listening to us, folks.